So it's been 6 years since Mortal Kombat 11 came out, and with the recent Warner Bros. Steam sale, I thought I'd try it out. I also quite enjoyed Injustice 2, which I did a video on earlier this year, so this will be more of a casual player perspective. I'm not great at this game, as you may see from the gameplay, I'm not gonna lie, and I'm only focusing on single player, so just like I did with Injustice, so I thought I'd just mention that before. And just from what I've seen online, this game was a fairly big change from their previous game, Mortal Kombat X, mainly due to the gameplay by making it a bit, in terms of the pacing, a bit slower and focusing more on the strategic side and the timing of it all, rather than it being so fast paced and how quick you have to be. Obviously for new players like me, this does help quite a bit and most people do prefer it. I think that's the main reason why they did it, to try and sort of cater for everyone and make it more fun. And just playing through the tutorial, I felt like they do make it easy for beginners and it worked really well. You know, learning each attack and combo without it feeling like a chore in the tutorial. But as we know with this game, it may be easy to learn but more difficult to master it. In terms of the aspects of the gameplay, you know, stuff like the fatal blow system is still a great mechanic in any fighting game. It of course helps in those moments where you're low on health and could completely change the fight around. Crushing blows, they're another big feature, but that can be used in just regular moves and not only at low health. So that could be after a jump or a counter or a certain combo. And then there's just, you know, still the basic movement like dashing forward or back to either escape or close the distance up, as well as small jumps to get over low attacks and then full jumping to go over big ones or start air combos. Then there's blocking and ducking, which is self-explanatory, with the gameplay feeling more slow and just strategic in general. You still have to know and sort of be aware and pay attention to get these blocks in, as it feels so fast in that aspect. But like most fighting games, you get used to this in the way you want, you know, how often you use them, what order you use them in. And that's what makes it fun and independent, but also different every single time. And in single player, basically every move is unlocked and you can experiment with all these different abilities over and over, as well as special moves, testing out combos that you like, etc. It just allows you to be more creative, and as I said, experiment with it, unlike in online where, you know, you sort of don't have all that. But you can become ready for that, so I think it has a good balance in terms of player you are like. And as with a lot of fighting game stories, it does act like a movie. Every chapter is directed like an action movie with very long cutscenes, I must say, especially in this game. But it flows really well, you know, with the fights, and it's quite seamless in the transitioning of it all. So for anyone that does think the story doesn't matter, it definitely does, and it's hard to sort of forget about it, I'd say, and it's all connected so well as you play. It also makes sense with all the different backdrops and their environments. You keep moving through them, and there's a ton of different landscapes, you know. Sometimes I'd be playing and then I won't even realise what sort of place I'm in, and then I do realise, and it looks insane every time. I'd say the voice acting is quite convincing, and there's not really any characters that stand out at all in terms of them, you know, feeling off, from what I remember anyway. You know, Sub-Zero, they're all very solid. So the story is all based around Chronica, I believe, which is the Keeper of Time, who basically wants to erase history and make her own timeline, if that makes sense. Meaning there's a lot of freedom in going back into past versions of the characters, but then also present day ones, making them fight and actually team up. Or they could be fighting against each other, regardless of what terms they're on. And then with the DLCs, it brings in characters like Robocop, Rambo and Terminator. It's just wild, really, and just such a crossover and such a lineup. And then, like usual, it goes into the characters' sort of head and their problems, so it's not just the fights, but the actual character arcs themselves. There's more meaningful areas that I thought there'd be, from the main characters to the smaller side ones, and yeah, just their overall development as a character and as a person. But it's just a wild ride, like most fighting games stories seem to be, because there's just an overload of characters playing each of their parts, and it's kind of difficult to sort of summarise in itself. The score also helps a lot with this. I mean, the backing tracks for the fighting is of course gonna be great and very cinematic, but as I mentioned, with the more emotional areas, the score also emphasises that as well, so it's very sad and devastating music, you know, throughout it all. It's quite moving, even though it is just a fighting game on the surface. And yeah, going back to the whole, you know, playing with history theme, it's also somewhat stupid in a way and comedic, because of those moments where you get these iconic characters in different time periods and then like mixing them up with completely opposite ones. It's kind of funny to see, especially if you've played or are just more aware of the lore of the franchise, I'm sure. And then just the general humour and comedic lines they do throw at you, it's kind of playful in that way. But even if you don't know the whole franchise behind it, I mean the story is quite easy to follow and still entertaining. Maybe even more because you get to sort of learn all the characters and what they're like. Obviously I didn't have any knowledge before and I hadn't played any Mortal Kombat game or watched any film, and I still do recommend it. And the main story is fairly short at around 7 hours long. And it usually is for fighting games, the same with Injustice. I think I completed it within a day. And then moving on to the visuals and basing it on that alone, it looks great these years later, you know. It does seem like around 2017 to 2019, those games in general just seem to step it up a lot with their graphics, and the majority of them around that time are still fine now, especially in the environments, as I said earlier, which have a lot of effort and detail put into them. The lighting is amazing, but I'd say the same with the character designs as well, and their outfits, again very detailed, and the facial animations are quite expressive. But I think the main thing, and probably what you'll notice and actually feel, is the animations and look of the fighting in the characters. Every move is quite slick and impacting, and you know, don't get me started on the cinematics in the fatal blows. I mean, each character having their own unique one, and some of them are very brutal, I must say. Now I am playing on a high-end PC, so it's difficult to sort of say how well the game holds up in performance, whether that be on console or older specs. From what I've heard, I think it's fine and very smooth, and it's not known to be one of those buggy and like broken games years after their release. Maybe a few frame drops or something, but you should be fine. So should you play this game, Mortal Kombat 11, in 2025? I definitely think it is worth it, and I'm not sure if the sale is still on anymore, but I picked it up for like less than £4 on Steam, and it looks like they're doing those sales all the time and it's always included, so I'm sure it will come up again soon, or just like another launcher you can get it from. And then the same with like keys that you can buy, they seem to be all around the same price all the time. And this is coming off, you know, from a casual player and beginner view, and I still had a fun time. And it delivered a, you know, a good experience and very like memorable. And even though Mortal Kombat 1 is like the main game right now, this game still holds up very well against it. And from the looks of like the reviews of 1, it seems like a good amount of players still prefer this if you do want to compare them. So don't think it's too late, this game is still worth checking out anytime, even years later. So if you did enjoy this video, then let me know by tapping that like button down below. And if you enjoy single player and multiplayer games as well, then that's what this channel does focus on. I have many playlists on a selection of games, so you can subscribe to the channel if you'd like to, and if you want to support me any further, then you can become a member of the channel at either level 1 or 2 to gain access to various perks. Thank you all for the support and watching until the very end. And that was Mortal Kombat 11 in 2025, and bye bye.